it's Karen. I wanted to talk to you about schedules today. I know a lot of parents have been trying to figure out, how do I take this situation and create a little bit more structure in my home now that my kids are home all day, every day. So we have all sorts of types of schedules out there, and I will post a few pictures of ones, but I was going to start with one that I have created. So this is a visual schedule. It has removable pieces, as you can see. The thing I like about this is great for young learners. So my kids will go and they will take the first one and they will go physically match it to the location that it goes. So this kind of works as like their hall pass. It gets them to the location I want them to be at. So that is why I enjoyed this one. I also like the flexibility of, I can modify it. I can take things out. So let's say, it's not that good of a day. We're not gonna try to fit in crafts. Maybe we're gonna keep a learning activity. So I can really customize this schedule to whatever I want it to be. So let's say story time, it just wasn't working there. So I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna keep the main staples of my schedule, things that I know I can implement these things. I feel comfortable, I feel confident, I don't feel overwhelmed. So start with very basic, guys, and then just add on to it. Again, we want to start with something simple. We don't want it to overwhelm us. We don't want it to overwhelm our children. So start simple, guys, and add on. We will talk about ways to add on to a schedule later on and how you can embed some activities. How to set up schedules. Sometimes they can be a little bit overwhelming and they shouldn't be. So I will start with my top 3 tips. Number 1 is that you start with the established routines you already have in your home. So think about the things you already do, whether that's bedtime routine, morning routine, meal routine. There are routines we have already established. So that is going to be kind of the backbone of our schedule once we get up and running. Looking at what type of schedule would be most beneficial for my child. So we have visual schedules for children who are more concrete. These are usually schedules that we do find in autism programs, special education programs, but realistically they can be good for anyone. So we will talk a little bit more about visual schedules. The next type of schedule is just a handwritten schedule. So something that's just on the board, on your fridge at home, written out on a child's notebook that just says specifically what is expected during certain times. This is a great thing for our older students and students who are learning to be a little bit more independent, so they can kind of check off, hey, I finished this activity. So that is another one. The last one is using technology. Us as adults, this is what we use. We use Google Calendar. Schedules, we want to keep them simple. We do not want it to become overwhelming and a burden for us to implement at home. So always start simple. So look back at what are the routines that are already established in your home. Take those routines and fit them into a schedule. Don't try to fill a schedule. I've seen so many schedules on social media right now, and looking at them makes me stressed out. So start simple. Start with the things you know. We have a morning routine, we have breakfast, we have a free time for play, we have lunchtime, we have a snack, we have an outside playtime. So look at the simplistic things and create a schedule based on what you feel comfortable with and not what you feel like you should be doing, because once we start pushing in things that we may not feel comfortable with, it's just going to bring this whole schedule down. So start with what you feel comfortable with. It doesn't have to have everything all at once. You can add on to a schedule. You can adjust the schedule. You might find things work and things that don't work. So it can be modified. A lot of times parents are concerned that if I start a schedule at home, does that mean my child is always going to need this schedule? And the short answer is no. Visual supports are meant to support your child with where they're at currently. It's not an indication of what they will need in the future. It's just a current support to help them become more independent, and to decrease some of the behaviors we see with transitions. So when you start a schedule, don't feel like this is something that you are going to have to commit to for life. Schedules will evolve over time. Schedules can be faded over time. So a lot of times in my own classroom, I start with a visual schedule, and what happens is we move further and further into the year, and by the time I'm telling kids to check their schedule, they already know where they're going, and they get there without having to actually physically check their schedule. Or they will go check their schedule independently when they know it's time. So clearly they've moved past the need for maybe that additional visual support. So they can now respond to the verbal direction of, hey, it's time for reading, and understand that, oh, it's time for reading. I'm gonna get my stuff and I'm gonna walk over to the reading table. So again, a visual schedule now does not dictate what they will need in the future. It will evolve, it will change, and it will potentially fade over time. So hopefully that is helpful and relieves some of the fears you might have with starting with schedules.